Chapter 102, Breaking the Question. Yes. Qin Pingping respectfully answered. Are those two female assassins really under the Four Goose Sword sect? Yes. The Emperor suddenly frowned and asked, wouldn't that Four Goose Swords really go and kill Fan's son for the sake of revenge? Qin Pingping respectfully responded, a generation of masters, there is always some frame. Right now, he is still in the Dami sword pit to dive into the training, as long as Fan Xian himself does not go to Dami City, and this matter is also being dealt with by the minister. Got it, those things were not finished talking the night before last, continue today. The Emperor half closed his eyes to recuperate and asked, dragging on for a long time before willing to return to the capital, even if you are not afraid of the imperial historians to go to the chapter. I also have to take into account the comments of the subjects in this world. I know that you are making small temperament, not satisfied with the arrangement for him. Qin Pingping gently rubbed the nails of the ring finger of her right hand, not knowing whether she was nervous or agitated, but her wrinkled face was still very calm. After this incident, it is estimated that the Chancellor will hold a grudge, although he will believe that it was the Four Goose Swords that made the move, and he will always think that his own son died because of Fan's son, and that the marriage. It's better to forget about it. The Emperor quietly said, it doesn't matter. King Jing has already entered the palace. I don't know why. He loves that little guy. Don't look at him not caring about things. But if he really wants to protect someone, there's no one in this court who dares to move again. As for Lin Ruofu, he's a smart man. Who should he believe in after the death of Lin Keng? After 20 years, there should always be a really smarter decision should be made. King Jing? Qin Pingping was a little surprised. Of course he didn't recognize it, so I don't know where he came from with that little one. The Emperor sighed, perhaps everything is destiny. It seemed that these words involved some time-honored pain, and one emperor and one minister simultaneously fell silent with great tacit understanding. Qin Pingping suddenly said, I objected to this 4 years ago, and today, I still object to this marriage. The Emperor opened his eyes and looked at him, saying, you are even younger than me, but you have aged a lot after all these years of toil, so it is better to care less about things in the future. Where are the qualifications for you to worry about these little ones? Qin Pingping smiled and responded, after this matter is finished, I will sue for old age. What matter? Your Majesty, the matter of that child. The Emperor's tone became lighter. In order to leave his mother's things to him, I turned this many corners, pretended to be heartbroken for Chenner, named her a county princess, let this estate be used as a dowry, and then asked the Empress Dowager to appoint him to be married, and only then did I let him get these things in name only. I am well-intentioned. Could it be that you still have any dissatisfaction? I dare not. Qin Pingping knew in his heart that His Majesty had implemented a lot of means in order for Fan Xian to be able to regain the Yi family. He said with a straight face, it's just that I'm always thinking about how to dispose of this supervisory academy in case I go one day. It would be a really dangerous thing to hand over the courtyard to an outsider again. With the succession of imperial power is not the same, the supervisory yuan is a somewhat monstrous existence. All depends on the supreme trust of the Emperor of Qing to Qin Pingping, depends on the supreme loyalty of Qin Pingping to the Emperor. If Qin Pingping once died, no matter who takes over the supervisory yuan, it is very likely that for the dynastic situation of the state of Qing to produce unimaginable and terrible impact, give it to the ministers. It is possible that out of powerful ministers threaten to the imperial family, give it to the emperor. It is possible to the emperor closed his eyes again. The emperor closed his eyes again and seemed to be thinking about something. You are thinking that I should give the courtyard to him? Not bad, since that child is not an outsider, naturally he will not threaten the palace. However, his origin is also destined to be impossible to participate in the struggles of the family of the Son of Heaven, so he is most able to remain neutral. Qin Pingping slowly responded. The Emperor seems to have some heart, and to be I think about thinking about, you will be good health. There are always 1 or 2 decades to live. This thing is not too anxious. Yes. Qin Pingping see today's purpose has been achieved. Respectfully salute to exit. There are faraway palace mates saw over to help, to the road outside the palace to go. The emperor stood up, closed his eyes for a long time, suddenly opened his eyes and watched that wheelchair walk towards the outside of the palace. He did not ever doubt Chen Pingping's loyalty to himself, but there has always been some doubt why this old dog would be so obsessed with that woman and fight for all the power that can be in his hands for that child at all costs. Thinking of that child, this world supreme's face suddenly flashed a trace of tenderness, thinking that he had not seen it since he came to the capital, and when he would have to go and see it. The palace maid will wheelchair out of the inner palace, there are guards to take over, and then slowly pushed out of the palace, and then to the palace door, there will be the supervisory board of the people took over, will be the Chen boss on the carriage. The carriage in the vermilion bird street forward marching, crushing the stone road, issued a stirrups have a rhythmic sound, but half a day has not yet been lined out of the inner city. The road to the east city is very quiet, this time the sky is already half dark. The carriage to the diagonal turn, and a secluded place stopped. Here there has been another carriage waiting here. The officials of the supervisory yuan and the guards beside the carriage didn't seem to be familiar with each other, but they tacitly left the carriage at the same time, scattering around, forming a relatively hidden defense circle. The two carriages were extremely close to each other, and at the same time, the person in the carriage lifted the side curtains and looked at each other, and it was Chen Pingping and Fan Xian's father, Lord Fan Jian, the minister of the Ministry of Ceremonies of the current dynasty. When Chen Pingping saw this face full of righteousness, he became very annoyed. While I was not in the capital, you coaxed His Majesty to find a good marriage for your son. Seeing him angry, Fan Jian was neither fearful nor nervous, and responded with a slight smile. For years ago, you spoiled things for me, and I'm merely trying to find a way to round things back up now. Chen Pingping coldly said, getting that pile of stinking money, and what is worth rejoicing? Fan Jian shook his head and said, money is the most important thing. Don't forget that when the courtyard was first established, if it wasn't for the idle child's mother, you guys would be drinking the northwest wind. Nowadays this inner treasury has long since not been the Yi family back then. You Fan family, if you take over, I'm afraid that you will be burnt out. The emperor forced the Lin family to recognize the illegitimate daughter. It is so that you and the prime minister can get along peacefully, but also for future consideration. Otherwise in the future, people will know that the county princess married the prince. What is that saying? Chen Pingping laughed coldly. Listen to my advice and withdraw from this marriage. It will be good for you and him. You think I don't know what you are planning? Fan Jian frowned. You've always thought that the eldest princess had something to do with what happened back then, but after all these years, you haven't been able to find any evidence. It's not just that. Chen Pingping said with a cold face, even if His Majesty feels indebted to him, think about it. If His Majesty really listens to you and returns the Yi family to him, what about this courtyard? His Majesty is so ambitious that he will definitely not allow someone in the world to hold both of these national weapons at the same time, not even him. Fan Jian's frown tightened. If you know all this, why do you still want to involve my son in these matters? Wouldn't it be better to let him be a rich man? A rich family man is that good? With you and I in Kyoto, and the eldest princess having been taught a lesson, the years to come should be smooth. Chen Pingping said in a chilling voice, don't forget that your son was nearly killed only a month ago. Fan Jian stared at his eyes. This is my negligence. Why is it not your problem? If you did not gamble on not returning, there would not be these storms in the capital. Chen Pingping quietly said, if your son had died like this, would there be any need for you and I to be so attentive? After a moment of silence, Fan Jian opened his mouth and said, in this matter, the price I paid is far greater than you, so if the two sides can't choose, I hope you respect my opinion. Chen Pingping thought for a moment and recognized the other party's statement. As the saying went, Fan Jian coldly let down the car curtain, and with a command, the two carriages parted ways. Darkness shrouded the imperial city, and this thick ink juice-like background, some people met for interests, some met for ideas, and then often separated because of these same two words, only to wait for a certain day when a certain opportune cause will come together again. Under the root of the imperial city, next to the high vermilion palace wall, slowly walking a sedan chair, followed by a few followers from afar, far away from the palace gate of the Forbidden Army saw this sedan chair walking around the palace wall. But no one went forward to ask questions. That is the Chancellor's sedan chair. This is the Chancellor's habit. Whenever the kingdom of Qing is in the middle of some kind of problem, he will always make people carry his sedan chair around the palace wall. Some people say that he is thinking about the problem in a strict, quiet environment. Those who despise the Chancellor think that this kind of eccentricity shows some kind of morbid fanaticism for power. Qingli 2 years, the southern river floods. The Prime Minister is sitting in a sedan chair around the palace wall many times. The next day on a folding, a detailed account of the disaster relief should be matters of division of labor and the process. Clear and powerful, and in the most critical money on the use of money, but some of the elbow grease, some of the department of the Ministry of the Household is difficult to support the sole force at this time, but the internal treasury is a few. Large sums of money into the account of the silver of the overseas trade, a dangerous for the Prime Minister's plan to provide security. His Majesty's dragon face greatly, but also the Ministry of the Interior is not a good idea. Provides a guarantee. His Majesty's face is very happy. It is often said that if a Prime Minister is a treacherous minister, one can tell by looking at his residence. But whether a Prime Minister is a traitor or a capable one, you can tell by looking at the world. But no matter whether he is a treacherous or capable Prime Minister, in fact, at certain times, he will always return to his original role, such as a father. Today, the Prime Minister around the palace wall scattered sedan chair, no one dares to disturb, precisely because everyone knows his second son died. The adult mood is not good. The night is gradually deep. The palace lit up the red candle lanterns, vague yellow light from the high wall above the sprinkle diffuse over, but this side of the palace wall is still dark. The sedan chair slowly walked to a side of the palace wall secluded, face far from a lantern shaking over, walked closer, only to see the original sedan chair is also a party.